Entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. The Breeders' Academy proudly presents Bred to Perfection with Kenny Troiano, a show for serious breeders.
Whether you are looking to create a new strain or simply improve an old one, you have come to the right place.
Daddy, I want more chickens.
Oh, boy.
Now, here's your host, Kenny Troiano.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bred to Perfection. My name is Kenny Troiano, and this, my friends, is the podcast devoted to helping you become a better breeder and taking your strain to the next level. That's right, my friends. It doesn't matter if you are brand new to breeding or you've been breeding for many years. There is something all of us can do to improve our fowl for future generations.
Yes, you're the non-executive figurehead.
Exactly.
The figurehead.
It means a fatty with a beard who fits the suit.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders' Academy, and here I am with my co-hosts Nancy and Frank Bradley. What's going on, guys?
Are you sure you got my name right?
I don't know if I got anything right. We're still recovering from our respiratory disease, and please don't call us. I don't know. Are we contagious still, Nancy?
Well, I haven't gotten it yet, so I'm hoping not to. He is off limits from me. I've got like this barrier in front of me where he can't come anywhere near me because I don't want to get this cold. It's a nasty cold.
Yeah, I'm still congested. She goes, why don't you get some toilet paper? And I go, that's all I need is to blow my nose on the screen here. So I'm just going to turn around, blow a loogie onto the rug over there and clean up later. So
I told him not to talk about that. When he was starting to talk about it, I was like, I don't want to hear it.
How about you, Frank? Are you feeling better?
Oh, gosh. Hey, compared to last time, I'm 20 again, okay? Last time I was struggling. I was feeling bad last time. I'll say that. But back on the trail again and feeling good now.
Yeah, so. You look better. You look better.
Yeah, I feel much better.
I do feel better. But it takes me all day to actually get ready for the show because there's a lot I have to do. And right around 5:30 or 5 o'clock, 5:30, somewhere around there, coming on to showtime, I told Nancy, I go, man, I am losing it. I felt myself going down, like I was getting really tired and weak. But I don't know if I told you, we were sitting down in the living room, and all of a sudden, it's hard to explain the sound we got, but it was almost like a compression sound, almost like a compression of air just hit the area like an atomic bomb. You just didn't hear the boom yet, right?
Yeah.
It was like, what the heck was that? And I look out the window, and all our wires, telephone pole and wires are flipping all over the place, right? So I go out there, and it turned out that down the road, maybe 100 feet away, just at the corner, somebody hit the pole, hit it square on, hit it pretty good too. So we lost power, and they were working it all night. I went and took pictures in the middle of the night, and they're all working on it. They got all these trucks, the cops, and lights flashing. It looked like a scene from Encounters of the Third Kind. It was really creepy, okay? And so we just went to bed, unplugged everything, make sure they didn't get a surge, came back the next morning, turned everything on. Nothing was working as far as internet. But it fried not only the cables box, but our router completely. So they had to come and fix that yesterday. So we had internet. Did a number on our power.
I had the same thing happen. It was either last year or year before last. We had to cancel the show over it. And a lady, she was drunk and driving. She hit the pole. She didn't only hit it, she went through it.
Ooh.
So we had pulled like several poles down. I had over 200 eggs in the incubator. It was off for 12 hours straight. And I said, I'm going to try it. Believe it or not, 2/3 of those eggs hatched after 12 hours. But I got a lot of the crooked toes. So in it. So I ended up having to cull a lot of them, but I still got a few out of them. But yeah, 12 hours, we lost all the food in our freezer or refrigerator. That was a bad deal. I was hoping it wouldn't be that bad for you guys, but sounded like it come close.
Well, I didn't expect to lose my internet like I did. I thought we're good to go because the electric company a while back gave us this generator, electric generator that you can charge by the wall if you need to, but you can charge it by solar too. And so we had that thing ready to go. It's like, okay, good. We're ready to go. I wasn't worried. I pulled it out, plugged everything to it, and we were good to go. So I wasn't upset at all, really. I was more worried about my neighbor who tagged the pole. So yeah, it wasn't that bad. It turned out that little generator that we got, Nancy, works pretty darn good.
Oh, yeah, it does. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yep, I went and got me one after that too. After that day happened, I said it will never happen again. Mine's gasoline. It's a 8,500 watt, but we can run the whole house on it. So it's just like the electric never goes out. It goes out, I go out, fire it up. We've got electricity again. So, and if you've got an incubator, guys, and you don't have one, I would recommend getting one because it will happen to you every time you end up losing all your eggs. So they come in handy.
I told Nancy, I wonder if I should start hatching chicks in the incubator and just use that.
Oh,
You was talking about that, if you
matter
remember.
of fact, I don't want to hatch that many chicks anymore. I'm hatching enough chicks for what I want to do.
Yeah,
So
you've got some nice incubator. That hatcher and incubator is real nice.
Yeah, I was showing Frank my incubators out there. And that's another thing. If you live nearby, there's a chance I might want to sell those too because I don't see myself using them anymore. They're just sitting out in the shed. I've got 2 incubators and a hatcher. They're in great shape. I took really good care of them because I was showing Frank all around here. Matter of fact, one night, I don't know if it was the night he got here. Almost every night we were out there walking around, talking. And we were just walking by the pens, checking things out, talking. And I don't know if you guys ever heard me talk about it before, how skunks get in my pens. I can't really keep them out, right? And I'm sure some people probably thought I was exaggerating that a skunk, you know the chain link fence, the hole that big? That might even be too big. These skunks are actually pretty good size, and they fit right through it. And there was one in my pen. And I said, Frank, just hold on. Watch this guy. He's going to go right through that wire. And he did. Right after I said that, he started to leave the pen, and he went right through the wire like it was nothing.
Yeah. With ease.
Yeah.
Didn't have to squeeze or anything. Just walked through it just like the wire wasn't even there, just like a ghost. Just whoop right through it. He was big as a cat.
Yeah. He squeezed, but it wasn't like he was like struggling to get parts of his body in. It's like
Just
once his head
slithered
went through, he went right through it. Yeah, that was amazing.
But show you the difference. Okay. A Kentucky boy.
Because you
with a
expected
skunk.
to get sprayed.
Yeah. You see a skunk. I mean, we were what, Kenny?
10 feet away, maybe?
Yeah. 10
Actually,
feet,
about
if
5
that.
feet away. 5 feet away, actually.
Yeah. We were close, and I was like, oh, crap. And I started backing up. Kenny's like, what's wrong? I said, I'm not wanting to spray that. He goes, oh, they won't spray you unless you bother them. Here in Kentucky, you see a skunk, and you're close enough to see it, it's backing at you with its butt spraying you. So those are much different out there, though. They're just like, oh, hi, how are you doing? And go on about their business.
okay. I'll tell you a quick story about that. Kenny caught one in the live trap, which is one of those give a heart traps where you can
Have a heart.
And you can catch it and take it someplace else out in the woods and let it go. And he's like, I don't know what to do with it because I can't take it in the car. He was just sleeping. I went out and I looked at it and I'm like, I can't just leave this guy in here.
We got to do something. I knew we got to do something. Yeah.
So I just slowly opened the gate and he just kind of looked up at me and I backed up and left. And eventually he left. So I came back in. I told Kenny, goes, I can't believe you just did that.
Well,
like,
soon after that, almost in the same area, by the way, of the yard, I walked around the corner of the chicken pen and there was one right there. And I surprised him. He got his tail up at me and kind of like made a sound like he was not growling, but he made a kind of a sound like go away. And so I backed off just a few feet. And then I was looking at my phone. I think I was getting ready to take a picture. I was going to take a picture of it. And I go to lift my phone, and all of a sudden I go, oh, shoot, where'd he go? He was at my feet, sniffing my foot, walking through my leg, around my leg, sniffing me, and walked over to my other foot, sniffed it, and just casually walked away.
See, they eat chickens here.
well, they'll go after the eggs here.
Yeah, they're left at
Yeah,
the egg.
that's what he was doing. He was having him egg dinner, I guess you could say. He was eating it. And we walked up, and like Kenny said, the chain link, just like he was a snake, just right through it with ease.
Yeah.
No problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
Hey, Kenny, real quick, what are the brand of your incubators?
GQF.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're the
there you
nice
go.
ones.
Yeah.
Nice incubators. Those are big bucks right now, too, by the way, guys. If you
Yes.
order one, you're looking at right at $1,000 or over $1,000. The ones Kenny's got set up, I'd say you're looking at maybe $1,100-$1,200
Yeah.
new. So
They're good. They're real good.
Right.
The best ones out
18
there.
Max, get a hold of Kenny if you're interested, even though he lives in Houston, Texas.
Yeah,
So
I don't know
he's
if it's worth
interested in
driving.
getting
Unless he has
started.
family here, maybe traveling back and forth, then that might be worth it. But we'll see. We are on number 98, I think, right?
that's it.
Okay.
98.
So we got 2 more to 100. We pre-recorded a show just for the 100. we will get on and do a little pre-show and then play the video. It should be a nice episode to celebrate our 100th episode. Frank and Amanda, his wife, came just recently, a couple weeks ago, and we spent some time at the Wild Animal Park, spent some time here, spent some time at the SeaWorld, had a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, so much fun. You know, the thing about it was, and you guys experience this too, you go to someone's home and usually you feel out of kilter. You're in their home, you're not in yours, you just feel like you're homesick, sort of, you know. Kenny and Nancy's, we got there, and to tell you the truth about it, I was kind of dreading we had to come back. We had such a great time out there, and they made us feel so much at home that a lot of times I forgot we wasn't home. So
good. That's the way I wanted it to be. That was my plan.
And that's the way it was.
And that was nice.
We appreciate that.
I saw that too. You guys were real comfortable, and I was like, yeah, this is cool.
We were super comfortable. And Amanda, she surprised me. I'll just tell you, from the time Kenny and Tommy picked us up to the time we got there, to the time we left, she was so comfortable. It was just like we were at home by ourselves. Yeah. So she really enjoyed herself.
Tanya and I, Nancy's not going to be able to make it this time, but Tanya and I are going to go to visit Frank. We already got the tickets. We're going to be visiting some farms, talking to some members. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. We did change the format of the show. Hopefully in the future, we won't spend so much time on the small talk and the advertisements, and we'll try to get into the show a little bit quicker so that we can talk about some things. But the first hour is going to be for everybody, for the public. And then the second hour is going to be on the membership. So you members, once we jump out of here, go to the website. It's the tab at the top on the left-hand side. It's called Members Live. No, wait. Members Live. What is it called? I just changed it too. Members Live Show or something like that. So click on that, scroll down just a little bit. You'll see the video, or you can click and actually join the show. And if you guys are there waiting in the queue, we'll bring you up from time to time to talk with us. We can do that too. And that is going to be really cool because we can talk about anything. We don't have to hold back. It's no holds bar. We can talk about the website. We can talk about the Founders Program. We can go deep into the programs. It's going to be fun. So that's how we're going to do things from now on. And also, if you want to become a member so that you can get the whole show, it is open right now. Just go to the registration page. Go ahead and join the Breeders' Academy. And that way you'll watch the whole show and have access to all the programs, the courses, the Founders Program, coaching calls. One more thing, even if you're not going to join the Breeders' Academy right now, I do suggest that you join our newsletter, which is our Breeders' Bulletin. Just go to www.breedersacademy.com. There you're going to get a lot of bonus material, free tips, free ebooks, such as how to select a proper brood fowl, 5 steps to purifying the bloodline, and a whole bunch more. You're also going to get some notification and announcements of things coming up, and we provide many opportunities for new subscribers, so make sure to go do that. And it's free. By the way, it's free.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. This show was brought to you by the Breeders' Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl. As a member, we'll provide you with the roadmap that you will need to create a true family or strain. I urge you to check it out. You've got nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders' Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl.
I hope to see you there. So let's get started.
Okay, so on with the show. Let's see how much we can get in 40 minutes.
What are we talking about today, Kenny?
This is a fun one for me because it's connected to things like the environment,
the health of your birds,
epigenetics. Now, we're not going to talk directly about epigenetics, but we're going to talk about some of the mechanisms of epigenetics because they really do apply here. And that includes like biosecurity. So we're going to be talking about healthy practices for healthy fowl. Some of the things you need to do so that you're having a strain that's healthy, that's going to improve as you go without having to use a lot of medications, a lot of vaccinations, things like that.
I can shorten it up pretty easy, Kenny. Here we go. The whole show. Breed healthy, resistant birds and don't breed sick birds. Good night, folks. See you next Thursday.
That's a big
pretty
one.
simple.
But we're going to expand it a little bit, okay?
Stretch it out a little bit.
We're going to stretch it out a little bit.
More to it.
Yeah.
A lot more to it.
Okay. So the one thing you got to understand that you're not going to be able to create a strain if the factors around your farm are always working against you. Every time you turn around, there's something about the environment, something about the birds you've been bringing on, the way you're managing your farm is always working against you.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I see a lot of people that wants to do that, Kenny, especially with the biosecurity. They'll say, I want to do it. I want to put my foot down. I don't want to bring in any outside birds. I want to do the right thing. I want to protect my birds. And then they keep doing it. They can't help but bring another bird in. But it doesn't work that way. To be on the resistance side, you have to keep your yard like a prison. Nothing comes back in once it goes out. It has to be that way because each time you bring a bird in, even if it's your own, you take it away, you bring it back. You take a chance of bringing other diseases in with that bird. And it's just an ongoing. You'll never get to where you need to go by just bringing birds in all the time. Oh, it's been 5 years. I've not had no sickness. I'm going to bring in different birds. And usually you can get by with it a little bit, but keep this in mind. Every yard has disease on it. Now, it may not show. The birds on that yard may be resistant to it, but on your yard, your birds may not be resistant to it, and that's what's going to get you.
Every time you bring a new bird on your yard, you're introducing a new weakness. So you're not going to progress your strain if you're dealing with sick birds or diseased fowl, okay? You're not going to be able to improve your strain if you're using poor management practices or dealing with poor environment. So there's things you need to do before you go buy your strain, before you can start your breeding process. And so that's the kind of things we're going to be talking about today. And hopefully we can clear up some of the misconceptions by watching or listening to what we're talking about here from what you see on YouTube and other people's farms, or whenever you go on other people's farms and you check out the way they're doing things. You're going to start spotting things they're doing wrong that you don't want to do. So learn what to do, learn what not to do, and then move forward. So Frank, the first one would be start with healthy fowl. You touched on it a little bit already, but you go on most people's farms and a lot of times they're far from it. They're using medications and vaccinations to cover up their weaknesses.
And that's so true, Kenny, but I'll take it another step further. What I see is the biggest issue is they pre-plan. We talk about this quite often. Big snow's coming in, cold front's coming in. I'm going to run some Baytril, or I'm going to run some Talamycin, or I'm going to run the LS50 through my yard to keep my birds getting sick. Now, we have people just starting out, just starting to learn, and they go to Facebook, social media to learn what they can. And unfortunately, we've got people that really don't have the best interests at heart. They'll tell them stuff that they know they'll fill in for meanness, and then some of them are just spewing stuff that they heard yesterday or 2 hours before. But what really gets me and scares me is we've got the beginners straight out. Okay, my biddies hatch out. I'm going to give them antibiotics. I'm going to give them vitamins and electrolytes every day of the week. Okay, I'm putting all this stuff in them. But in reality, the best thing they can do for a chicken is just good, fresh water and the best nutrition that they can give the bird. Do away with all this other junk. They don't need it. And I think a lot of times they shoot themselves in the foot because they think they need all this stuff. And the only thing they're doing is just destroying the bird's immune system by giving them all this crap.
And if you look at the way antibiotics work, even when you're using them properly, you need to give them a treatment. You need to give it to them 2 or 3 times a day for like 7 to 10 days, sometimes 14 days. And they'll go and they'll take a half cc, put it in the breast, and they think they're done. All they did was give them a pulse shot, but no treatment. So they actually strengthen the bacteria. And then like Frank said, they're giving baby chicks the antibiotics, trying to prevent disease. And Dr. Gallardo tells us all the time that you can't prevent disease by giving them antibiotics. Or what I've seen lately is they get this 5-pound bucket, they pour the antibiotics and then fill the bucket up with water, mix it, and then they start spreading it around throughout their yard so that they don't get sick. Or maybe that will cure the ones that are rattling instead of just using proper selection, proper culling methods. Frank said it earlier, it does sum it up pretty good. Culling the sick ones and bringing to the healthy ones. And that goes a long way. But the diseases we see mostly because of this kind of practice would be mycoplasma and coryza, which is really bad.
Well, you see those two more. And the thing about it is They try to treat one and it's not working. So they're giving them all these other drugs. One drug will work on one, but it won't work on the other. So they're giving them drugs that they don't need, just guinea pig in it to see if it'll work. Oh, well, that didn't work. I'll give them this. Well, that worked okay, but I believe this will do better. And they're just filling them full of all this junk. And, you know, Dr. Geraldo's said this before many times. They're not only killing the bad bacteria, they're destroying the good bacteria too. And the side effects from these drugs, Kenny, you know as well as I do, they can be more harmful than the actual disease they're trying to get the bird over or prevent it from getting. I mean, a lot of those are really, really hard. And he also said, why use atomic bomb when you can use something like a firecracker? And I believe that. Don't use these strong drugs. It just destroys your fowl.
Well, I was talking to him the other day because we have him on the show. He comes on periodically to talk about health. I usually try to give him all the healthcare shows and let him cover that as much as possible. But he reiterated what he had said once before when we did one on antibiotic use and misuse, which is an awesome show. I suggest everybody go check that out, especially why I still have it on YouTube, which won't be there forever. Pretty soon I'll be archiving it on the website. But he said in his 20 years plus of being a poultry veterinarian, he's only prescribed antibiotics maybe 5 or 6 times ever. That tells you something right there, okay? That it's a tool in his toolbox that he needs when it's the proper time. You can't be using this kind of thing indiscriminately.
Yeah. And I agree 1,000%, Kenny, but this is the way I want the listeners to look at it. We don't have anybody in the wild giving all these birds antibiotics. The antibiotics has been took off the commercial plans for a long time. They're no longer able to use them in these big broiler plants where they're raising these birds. So if they can raise 5,000 birds under a roof without any type of antibiotics, then us that raise in our backyards can do the same thing. We don't need those antibiotics in order to raise birds. We don't need to use it for a crutch to ensure they won't get sick. There's proper ways of doing things, but the way I look at it is an antibiotic does nothing but cripples the immune system on our fowl. That's how I look at it.
This is proof in the pudding, I guess you could say, because Jameson in the Caribbean, they have limitations in availability to vaccines. And so they have to do without it and breed to naturally resistant birds. So right there, it's telling you that it works. It can be done.
Oh, no, it definitely can be done.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah, and thank God. I don't know if he's thinking it's a crutch or it's something that worked against him, but I wish we all had that problem. Because when they were going to take antibiotics off script, I was the happiest person in the world. But what happens? They're able to bring them up from Mexico and still sell them and get around it. Well, those vaccines and those medications and those antibiotics aren't as good as what they produce here. They have their issues. Some are stronger than others. Some are weaker than others. Sometimes they're old. So there's issues that are associated with that. And I actually think that Jameson is probably better off than most people, that he's being forced to select the healthy ones and cull the sick ones and work his way towards disease resistance, which we're going to talk a little bit here, probably on the other side of the wall. And then our next Masters Class video is going to be on how to breed a strain that is disease resistant. We'll be doing that here pretty soon. Us getting sick kind of slowed us down, so I'm still working out the program for that and the outline for that particular video, but we'll be doing that real soon.
Yeah, and the proof, Ben, I don't have the names. If I did, I probably wouldn't even be able to pronounce them, but there's 2 or 3 different strains of fowl that's out there that's recognized for being disease resistant. Marriage, pox, they never have a problem. And how did they get them that way? They made them that way. They bred them that way. They bred them to be disease resistant. And I've been studying this for some while now on the resistance to diseases. And it amazes you.
Not too much, because we're going to save that for the other side of the wall.
I'll save that to the second half. But it's amazing what they're doing right now with this, just as experiments alone.
Yeah. Between what I've already known, some of the research and the practice that I've done, my experiences here with disease resistance, and then some of the new research I've been doing, I'm very excited about doing this program and this course. We're going to highlight a little bit of it tonight for our members behind the wall. But that Master's Class video we're going to do on the subject, oh, they're going to love it. It's going to change the way they think about it. The next one, practice number 2, would be practicing good biosecurity. Now, I know a lot of these are going to be highly connected. We're going to cover things, double cover, I guess you could say, a little bit here and there. But this is really important, Frank. Most people underestimate the value of biosecurity. As a matter of fact, when I talk to Dr. Gallardo, every time he brings up the subject, he sees their eyes glaze over and get bored. Oh, yeah, you're talking about that again. But if you just practice good biosecurity, keep a closed yard, you're not going to need these medications at all. So biosecurity is one of the best things you can do.
It's the only way to do if you want to protect your fowl. But I'll even go a little bit farther, Kenny. I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but the biggest spreaders of disease would be what?
People.
Exactly. It's us.
Yeah.
We're the biggest spreaders. That's what happens going from farm to farm to farm. And you guys may call me a nut, but I go to a feed store. I wear special shoes. I do not ever wear my farm boots out anywhere other than the farm. I put them in the vehicle with me. I go to the farm, I put them on. When I come off the farm, I take them off. A lot of people, they'll go into these feed stores, and that is a prime place to bring something back on your chickens, just on the bottom of your feet or your clothes.
I don't know if you noticed when you were here. Did you notice what I was wearing when you were here when I was out in the yard? You probably don't because...
No.
Okay,
No,
I have 2 pairs of jeans that I wear out there. And if I don't have those, Nancy, what do I wear?
Sweatpants.
Sweatpants. Those are my clothes for out there that I don't wear anywhere else. And I never wear my shoes, okay? And then I don't know if you noticed, I had boots on. People will see from the pictures when we show them next time. I have special boots that I wear, or I'll have old tennis shoes that I'll clean up, and then I'll wear those until they wear out, and then I'll go back to the boots. So I have special clothes that I wear just for that. Even the hats I wear, only out there, everything. And then I come in right from the yard. I go in there, I shed my clothes, put it right in the hamper, take my shower, and I'm done. And if I go out there, I change my shoes.
Yeah. It can happen with clothes, but I think a good 75% or more comes from the soles of her shoes.
Yeah.
Because me and Amanda will go to work and we'll be running behind her. We'll just stop off there and she'll have her shoes on. And I'll get the floors done and I'm looking, I see a little bitty speck here, a speck there. I find a feather and I'm like, do you have your shoes on that you wore to the farm? Oh, I forgot to change them. So after that discussion, I'm like, you can't do that, honey. You cannot do that. So we bought her a pair of boots like I've got. So she does the same way I do now.
Yeah. So what are the benefits of keeping a closed yard? Well, obviously, the biggest one would be it prevents genetic contamination and prevents disease contamination. But you're going to have healthier strains. You're not going to have a need for medications. You're going to see less sickness. So the idea is to limit the amount of visitors. And when you do, you take your precautions. You make sure you quarantine birds that you might have took off your farm, brought back, or birds you buy, make sure you quarantine them. And then at least, like Frank was saying, Frank made a big deal about it. I believe it, that the shoes are probably the biggest point of entry when it comes to diseases. At least give them a foot bath before they come on your yard.
Clorox or chlorine.
And this is tough because you want to bring people on your yard. You want to go on other people's yard. And even when you're taking all the precautions, you're still taking a chance. At least take those precautions, because I could tell people all day, don't go on other people's yards or don't have people on your yard, but they're still going to probably do it. At least try to take the precautions necessary.
That's what my pictures are for. They can see my birds without
yeah,
going
that's
on
a
my
good
farm.
idea. Yeah. Yeah. So we were talking about quarantining your birds. Now, my members know that I have a rule. It's called the 30-30-30 rule. So you quarantine your birds for 30 days. After 30 days, you put a sacrificial bird in with that bird. And if that bird doesn't become symptomatic, then there's a good chance that you're probably okay and that you can start integrating that bird into your yard. But that third 30 is to keep them at least 30 feet from the rest of your birds, and you feed them last. Take that part serious. And I think a lot of people, I see it so many times where they go and they buy a bird or they take a bird off their farm, they take it to a show, and they bring it right back on and then put it in with their birds. They actually put it in the same pen of their birds. And then what happens is sometimes the disease doesn't develop. They don't become symptomatic for a certain amount of days, and you've already forgotten that you brought that bird or who you put it with. You could have moved it with a number of birds by that time. And then by the time they are symptomatic, you've kind of forgot where that disease might have came from. And now you got a yard full of sick birds. And like a lot of the peddlers are saying, they try to make it look like the disease on your yard and the fact that you're giving them medications, antibiotics is a normal thing. It's a standard practice. And it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Kenny. And all your birds start getting sick one after the other. And then when you get to this one bird, you go, oh, well, this one bird's not sick. And it's the bird that you brought in.
Yeah, because he's a carrier.
Yeah, because he's a carrier, and that's what made all of them sick. A lot of people will forget that fact, but if you truly want to know, and it's still not 100%, like Kenny said, there's some diseases that can just lay dormant and never show any signs from its host, but it's a carrier. But you truly want to know, hold your feed and water for a day or so. Stress that bird out. And if it's packing anything, usually it's going to show it.
And cries is a big one because a lot of times it's a disease they get when they're young from the older birds because the older birds are carriers. So they won't express it. You could have that bird for 30, 40 days and he may never express it, sometimes even under stress. And that's why it's so important to put another bird with him and test to see if he's carrying anything. And if your birds are coryza-free, it's going to come down with something. But you got to understand, too, although some diseases can spread very fast, and you can see the evidence of that, the expression of some diseases, some are what they call slow moving through your yard. They can take some time where all of a sudden you'll have a sick one over here, then one will show up sick over there, and then a week or two later it's over here. It just kind of slowly moves through your yard. Same sickness, but just doesn't go through your yard as fast as you think it would. And by the time you get a handle on it and figure out where it came from and who's next, you pretty much have your whole yard full of sick chickens.
Yeah, you're right, Kenny, because a lot of times your bird can be infected and not show any signs whatsoever. Now, here's the point. If you're feeding them a good diet, they're getting what they're supposed to get on a daily basis as far as nutrition. You're keeping them healthy. You're keeping them in good shape. You're doing what you're supposed to be. You could have a yard full of sick birds and not know it. But let that bird's immune system drop down under stress, cold weather, hot weather, anything that stresses that bird out, that's when your problems is going to arise. They can still have the disease, but you won't know it until that immune system lowers, and then that's when it's going to pop out at you.
I don't know if this is what you guys are saying, but I have to mention this. Okay, I just heard this today on another show. They were saying that gray chickens are healthier than red chickens. That's an old wives' tale. Color does not correlate to health, vigor. Color is what they call independent assortment. If you look at Mendel's laws, independent assortment is one of them. It basically tells you that one trait isn't dependent on another trait, and color is one of those things. And just the fact that they're gray doesn't make them healthier than a red. It's not true.
Now, health is in the DNA, okay? Not in the feathers. Yeah. It's in the DNA.
If it sounds like an old wives' tale, it is an old wives' tale, okay?
Yeah, so, I agree, Kenny. I agree.
So the next practice, which would be practice number 3, would be providing a good environment. Now, depending on who you talk to, this can be controversial because it's going to sound like we're contradicting ourselves just a little bit. But I will say this. The birds need to be exposed to their environment, but their survival depends on if they can adapt to that environment. So whether you have had birds for a long period of time, or you've gotten new birds, or you've brought new birds on your farm from other places, if they can't survive in this new environment, then they don't belong here. Okay, that doesn't mean that you need to cover up that weakness by giving them antibiotics and start pumping them with a lot of different vaccines. Let's say you were to buy a trio or a pair from someone, you brought them on your yard, and you started to breed them. And I always tell people, hatch as many as you can manage and afford. Yeah, you might lose some of them because they're not able to survive this environment, but some of them will. And those are the ones you want to move forward with. So you can't hide their weaknesses. You need to let them be exposed to the environment that they're going to be living in from then on. Don't baby your chicks.
Speaking of that, Kaiku is wondering if Dr. Gallardo acknowledges sunlight as a source of decontamination for disease or development of bad bacteria.
Absolutely.
I don't know if a doctor does, but all the classes I've taken, sunlight is one of the biggest
best disinfectant
contributors.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the biggest.
But it won't get through dirt. So if you have feeders, waters that are dirty, you need to clean them up, then put them in the sun, let them dry in the sun. If you got pens that have tops on them, you need to expose the top so that it's getting as much as you can. But if there's something hiding under the dirt, then you got a problem. But it will kill the germs that are exposed to the direct sun.
That's the reason every year in February, I take the cages and move them. I've got a little small tiller. I till where the cages were, and I put lime down over the yard. And mainly it fixes your pH. It makes your soil virgin again. It can kill a lot of your diseases or just bacteria that's there. I've been doing that the past 10 years, and I've seen a big change in my birds. There's a lot of things you can do husbandry-wise to stay up on that.
We're still talking about them being exposed to their environment. Now, whenever I used to help the feed stores around here, I've been too busy to do it lately, but they would send a lot of their people that had questions about their chickens to me. And it seemed like the people that were having the most problems were the ones that kept their pens actually too clean. Every time a bird would drop something, they would pick it up. They would change those wood shavings every day. They didn't want anything to be dirty. Well, those were the sickest chickens. Those birds need to be exposed to the microorganisms in their environment. And so I keep what we call a deep litter. I let that litter build up to a certain height. And then as soon as it gets there, I take a certain percentage of it out, never all of it. Then I shovel it, turn it over, rake it flat, and then I start over again. I want those birds exposed to that. And same thing with a chick in a brooder. Yes, you're going to start with a fairly clean slate, and that's good, which is the wood shavings or whatever it may be in there when they just come out of the incubator. But as they build that litter up and you start seeing that it needs to be changed, I may change half of it, and then I'll put new wood shavings in there and mix it up with some of the old stuff and then go from there. Never make the environment so clean that it's sterile, because then you're going to have some sick chickens. They just won't adapt to their environment that way.
Kenny, I'll even take soil off my yard and take and put small amounts of it in the brooder to let them peck through it, to let them have some sort of a small vaccine before I free range them. I turn them out because I free range mine. And I've noticed over time, that's really helped them when I turn them out. I've got less that will get droopy, sick, or have problems when I turn them out, because I think it allows them to get used to what their environment, what they're going to actually be in later on down the road. And that can help out a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Javier brings up a good point, and I'm glad he did it, because it kind of goes with what I'm going to say next too. Now, Frank's environment is a little different than mine. He lives in a very wet environment where it rains a lot, the ground's damp a lot through most of the year. So he's got to deal with things a little bit different. I live in California where it's very dry. Now, there was a time when we had a special guest who promoted that all feed should be put in cups. And I never felt comfortable with that, because Javier's right. I'm okay with putting my feed on the ground. I do think they need to be exposed to their environment, but I don't have a muddy, wet ground either. So Frank would probably put his, especially when it's muddy, into a cup just to keep the feed off the ground, because that dampness can get into the pellet and then create bacteria, okay? But for me, it's not that the birds are getting, and I've heard this too, well, you put it on the feed so that they get the iron from the ground, which is a bunch of baloney. But they do get exposed to the microorganisms in their environment. Now, some of you know that I have brood pens where I do have a pan in there, and I'm not worried about whether the feed gets on the ground in there or not, but I do throw it into the pan for two main reasons. And that is, I want to measure the feed. I want to make sure I'm watching how much they're eating, and I don't want them to waste it. I want to measure the feed that they're eating. I want to make sure that they're not wasting it, because they could be going off their feed, especially in the brood pen. And I don't want them wasting it, because vigorous hens can start kicking this stuff all over the place. During the off season, I might throw it on the ground. And then I got pens like my dog runs, and I've got some round pens. Those go right on the ground. I have no problem with that, but Frank would, and I'll let him talk about that.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, now, this is how I do mine. Basically, everything Kenny said, I have to do. But as far as putting it on the ground, Kenny's right. They have to get used to those little bitty bacterias that they're prone to every day that's on the ground. The only thing about it is, if it's got a pellet in it, I don't recommend feeding it on the ground. Now, a scratch or something without a pellet, you'd be okay, as long as the ground's dry. They need to eat off the ground. I mean, that's just their wild side in them. Everything they eat's off the ground. It does build a hardier immune system by doing that. But a pellet, just like you throw some in some bedding straw, that pellet gets in there and it gets lost and the chicken doesn't find it, it will mold up. So when he does find it and he eats it, you're susceptible to botulism, bacteria in the gut, really a bunch of other problems. I don't have a problem with throwing scratch in the bedding. That way, if they don't find it right off, it's not going to mold up and do harm to them. But as long as it's not a pellet, I don't have a problem with it. But Kenny's right. Here in Kentucky, it's hard. You just about have to feed, I'd say, 90% out of a cup, really, rather than the ground.
I can throw my pellets on the ground, but I don't overfeed my birds.
There you go.
Yeah, that's key. And one day a week, I don't feed them. So I make sure they go in and they clean up whatever they miss.
That's me.
Okay. So I can get away with that here. Okay, so we're going to cover one more thing, and then we're going to go on. The Breeders' Academy. Nancy, get ready, because I'm going to have you tell them what we're going to talk about later.
Okay, well, you're talking about the rotating of the dirt and not keeping it too clean. Here's a good question for you. So how often would you rotate your birds or the pens?
I move my birds a lot. The only birds I don't move is during the breeding season. I don't move the hens, but I'm moving cocks all the time. And this may be part of his question. Twice a year, I go in and clean my pens. So after the breeding season, I go in there, I take some of the litter out, like I said, turn it over, rake it clean, take a high-powered hose and spray down the tops and the sides and all the dust and everything, and then I do the litter. So yeah, twice a year I clean the yard up pretty good.
All right. Before we go, guys that are going to go into the Breeders' Academy, make sure you do, because we've got some topics still to go. Ones that you're really going to be interested in hearing: proper nutrition, nutrition deficiencies, nutrition supplements. We're going to talk about that. Starting with good genetics. It's another subject matter we're going to be discussing.
We're going to be talking about resistance to disease. You left the good stuff out, Nancy.
We have so much left to go.
So...
Yeah, it's a whole nother show.
It is another show, but we're going to do it, okay?
Yeah.
So that's going to be for the members. Make sure to join the Breeders' Academy. That way you're getting the complete show, because what we're going to do is we're going to take this half. We're going to take the half that the members are going to be watching now. We're going to put them together. That's all going inside the Breeders' Academy. Inside the Breeders' Academy, you're going to have programs and courses. You're going to have the Founders Program. You're also going to have Frank and I to help you out, and we do coaching calls in there. So there's a lot of benefits to becoming a member. And this show is one of them. So we'll see our members in the back end. And hopefully you guys will join us in the Breeders' Academy, and we can help you guys too. See you next week.
See you guys.
Okay, thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you again for joining us on the Bred to Perfection podcast show. This show was brought to you by the Breeders' Academy, where by becoming a member, you can increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and take you and your fowl to the next level.
We can also show you how to create a strain from hybrid crosses or mongrel flocks, and help you to create, maintain, and improve your present strains. We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel anytime.
To join us at the Breeders' Academy membership website, go to www.breedersacademy.com.
Best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
While you're checking out the Breeders' Academy, make sure to sign up for our newsletter, The Breeders' Bulletin. We provide a lot of free bonus materials and some great information that will take you and your fowl to the next level. Well, that's it for now.
We hope you join us next time for another episode of Bred to Perfection. We'll see you later.
Bye.